All right, let's go ahead and kick this off. Again, my name is Frank McNally from Public Spend Forum. Thank you all for joining us for our webinar today on how to find emerging technology suppliers on GovShop, our market research and supplier intelligence platform. I'm going to get things kicked off, and I do want to let everyone know that we have a chat functionality on Zoom where you can ask questions directly to our panel, which you can see here, these distinguished gentlemen. And we also have a Q&A feature that you can use to submit a question. We would love to have your questions today. You know, we're going to run about 45 minutes of content here and try to leave 15 minutes at the end for your questions. The way that you can ask those questions is if you sort of just hover your mouse at the bottom of your Zoom player, it'll bring up a list of controls and you'll see Q&A and chat right there. So that's how you can chat with us. And I see Yanis is already sending out a chat to let everybody know, how to use these things. So like I said, my name is Frank McNally. I'm the Director of Learning and Content Development. You're going to hear from me at the start, but I'm going to hand it over to Raj in a couple of slides. Raj Sharma, he's the founder and CEO of Public Spend Forum. We also have our Director of Research and Analysis, Ash Beatty, and our Managing Partner, Ben McMartin. So they'll be here for questions and answers as well. Before we get into our program, I did want everyone to know about some great webinars and workshops that we have coming up starting next week with an Introduction to Acquisition Innovation Essentials. That's going to be led by Ben McMartin. It's a great overview of a full-day workshop that we're providing on how to find innovation funding as a supplier or as a contract professional, how to use innovation funding to get emerging and small businesses into your acquisition and business environment. Following that, we're going to do an introduction to our webinar on winning government contracts. That's where we survey the procurement process. We talk about how solicitations are designed, how you should be responding to solicitations, emphasizing the need to figure out your product market fit and your company's differentiators. And again, that is an introduction to the full workshop, which we'll be delivering on March 17th, called Closing the Deal, How to Win in Government Contracting. Yanis is going to be putting out some links to register for all of these courses in the chat, and definitely invite you to check those out. Should be really good content coming up. All right, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Raj for today's topic and agenda. Raj?
Thanks, Frank, and welcome everyone to one of our webinars. This one today focused on a very important topic of emerging technology suppliers. We know there's a ton of interest out there, not just ton of interest, but also a lot of energy and activity across governments within the U.S. federal government, of course, but also we're seeing it at the city, state level, and internationally. So this is an area, emerging technology suppliers, an area that we've focused a lot on, and both looking at various markets and also really structuring and compiling comprehensive data over time within GovShop. So we'll be walking through that today. So specifically, we'll just cover upfront for a couple of minutes GovShop and Public Spend Forum, what our mission is and what we're doing at a broader level. Then as we walk through that, and then we'll switch over. Frank will walk us through a demo. And then, we are, as we'll discuss, building an open innovation ecosystem here. We'd love to really hear from you in terms of how we can work together. We have some thoughts down, but we'd love to get your ideas as well. So with that, Frank, can we move to the next slide, please? Okay, so Public Spend Forum. What is Public Spend Forum? You may know. We are a market intelligence and procurement innovation platform and innovation ecosystem, as I mentioned, for public sector across the world. We're definitely focused within the US, but we're also engaged across Europe right now and a number of events there. But today the focus is primarily going to be on the US. Our mission is what really motivates us. And that mission really centers around open government markets. We all know that governments spend over $10 trillion globally on buying stuff, simply stated. And we know there's a lot of room to improve the way that buying is done. Our specific focus in terms of our mission of open government markets is one, to make it as easy as possible for government to access commercial innovations in a timely manner and get to the right set of partners. That may include emerging companies. In some cases, it might be traditional companies where still it's difficult to get to those solutions. And on the supplier side, we know we've heard from suppliers over the past couple of years. So a lot of challenges companies face in terms of working with government when they have solutions, when they know there's a good product market fit. So our goal is to help suppliers gain access to the most relevant government customers and opportunities, and lower their cost of doing business with the government, but more importantly, help government deliver outcomes. Next slide, please. So we just rolled out, we've been working on this suite of tools and services. Very simply stated, we'll be focusing on GovShop today, so I won't talk about that too much, but it's really our supplier intelligence and opportunity matching platform. And then we have our suite of market research and procurement innovation, training and services, which is GovAirs. That includes some of the trainings that Frank mentioned, as well as workshops and assisted market research that we provide. And then GovLabs, you'll be hearing more and more about it. But essentially, it's part of our open innovation ecosystem. It's the innovation community labs that where we really bring the community together so we can solve problems. We know that to solve $10 trillion in issues, really it's going to take, it's taking the energy of everyone, right? So that's what GovLabs is about. All right, so I think I'm going to skip over this slide for a second just to kind of move things along and really focus in on our topic of today, conducting emerging technology market research. If we move to the next slide. This slide just, in a very simple way, states what some of the challenges that we all face, right? If you're out there doing market research on a daily basis, this slide is obviously from a government standpoint. We know that the lack of time that everyone faces, right? Market research is really time consuming, no matter how much time you have. And given all the other things we need to do in procurement, whether you're an OTA trying to arrange a challenge or and invite the right players, or your government procurement officer or program, nobody has enough time. So that's one thing we've heard over and over. Second, it's just not possible to keep up with what's happening in markets right now, right? The world is changing fast, markets change fast, and regardless of time or skill set, it's very difficult to keep up with who's coming in and out of markets, what's happening from a business model standpoint, et cetera. And then what we've seen is also the data that's out there and you have access to, and we've heard this from many people, it's very fragmented and in many cases incomplete even when you get to all the sources. So of course there's many adverse impacts from that. Most importantly, we're not able to solve problems and there are barriers for suppliers as well. So the way we're addressing that is through GovShop as one of the solutions, and of course combined with GovAirs, our set of services in GovLabs. But GovShop specifically is a free tool for government and suppliers to conduct supplier research, find contracts, and we'll be discussing during the demo a new capability we're rolling out, which is publishing opportunities and matching opportunities to suppliers. Right now, we have 1.6 million companies on GovShop. That will be growing tremendously over the next year. Within that 1.6 million, you'll see there's about 700,000 to 800,000 emerging tech companies. We are also populating contract vehicles, as well as organizing information by commodity codes. Again, the goal is, from a government standpoint, to give you the opportunity to find a comprehensive set of suppliers in one place. That includes emerging, non-traditional, traditional, rather than having to piecemeal it all together through multiple sources, go to one place. And then over time, we're building more and more algorithms that allow you to match suppliers much more easily to your requirement. And then for suppliers, the biggest issue we've heard is around, how do you stand out in a crowded market, right? Even if you have the best capability, best solution, and especially for smaller firms. So that's one of the key goals we're focused on. And we'll show you how that works through the profiles, and then matching suppliers with the right opportunities. Anything from our team, by the way? Anything, Ben or Ash or Frank, you guys want to chime in?
So I'll just chime in really quick, and looks like we already have a question, which is the right way to do webinars is to get questions early and get the information out that the participants actually want to hear about. I know we're going to talk about a lot of the contract data that's already been pulled into GovShop, and how from a former contracting officer like myself, it would have been wonderful to have had this tool during my career in order to cut down on a lot of the vendor research that had to be done, which really produced some inefficient results and normally led to the same group of companies. So from the GovShop perspective, from the ex-contracting officers, Ray and Frank and myself, I can tell you that the piece that I would hone in on from this webinar is understanding how you can look across an enterprise at a bunch of different vendors that you probably haven't seen before and get that targeted data that you're looking for. What sector are they in? Do they have open contracts with other agencies that you can piggyback off of? Do they have experience at a state and local level that can be used as past performance on the federal level?
That's great. Yeah, and I think Ben, one of the questions around contracts, yeah, we're calling all the data, and we're establishing relationships where we're pulling in more and more of the opportunity data as well. What we've rolled out, you'll see is the beta version of that, and you'll see new functionality coming in, and we'll talk more about that during the demo that Frank leads. And please do feel free to ask any questions here. We are always looking, and we'll stay on top of that. Just a couple more quick highlights, and we'll just jump into the demo here. As I already mentioned, 1.6 million companies. One of the other things, the second bullet point here, is about detailed profiles. So we talk to a lot of people out there. You'll see, we're trying to establish detailed profiles where you can find not just the basic information that you find on a lot of sites, but what products and capabilities does the company have? What certifications does it have? What past experience? What contracts? All of those things. Opportunity posting and distribution, as I mentioned, search filter. Again, we'll run through some of this. On emerging tech, specifically on the bottom, over 700,000 companies. You can filter them by emerging and non-traditional. Also, we've started posting more past experience data. An example, cyber data is tagged to companies as well, and you can filter on that. And then we're also conducting a lot of market analysis. This is typically in partnership with experts, as well as we're establishing partnerships with different companies as an open system. So you'll see more and more detailed analysis of a growing number of markets, including segmentation of those markets and other types of analysis related to those. So I think that's, Frank, if you go to the next slide, I think we are into the demo. Okay, one last thing. I think we've mostly covered this. This just mentions a few more things there. These are just some examples of markets here that you can go review, but we cover all markets. And again, across every market, you'll find the supplier data, contracts library, ability to post opportunities, and then market analysis, as I already mentioned. So I think we're good to go, Frank, to the
Hey,
next.
Raj, if I could jump in on this question, we got a fantastic question. The question is, who is currently using GovShop? Type in persona, and what's their typical use case? Obviously, this is something really exciting that we're tracking right now, which is, you know, the type of folks that are using GovShop right now are program managers, contract specialists, contracting officers, logisticians, engineers, anybody who is on the public procurement side of government, who's responsible for market intelligence and understanding what the market is to support their customers. And what's really exciting about that is just in the last week, if we did a rundown of the agencies, you know, that are using GovShop, I'll just give you a few of those examples. Just just this week, if I'm looking at who's doing market research within GovShop, I see Veterans Administration, I see Homeland Security, I see NASA, I see St. Louis County Government, GSA, U.S. Department of Transportation. And the list goes on and on for the government side of who is using the GovShop to do their market intelligence. On the flip side of that, we have a number of vendors, industry partners who are looking at what the opportunities are and making sure that their profiles are filled out so that these government customers conducting this market research in anticipation of procurements that they're going to do are finding those companies when they're doing those searches. So that's a fantastic question. I mean, who's in here and using it? The answer is really state, local, federal, and international customers are conducting market research through GovShop.
Awesome. I like the real-time data there, Ben. That's great. I think this was the last slide, Frank, if I recall correctly. And so why don't you take it away, lead us through the demo here, and we'll chime in as needed.
Great, thank you. Yeah, and while I'm pulling this up, I think it's worth noting, you know, another persona using GovShop right now are members of our supplier community. They are finding that a GovShop supplier profile really provides all the information that government contracting professionals and program offices are looking for when they're conducting market research. So that's a really important use case as well. So let's talk a little bit about GovShop. You're looking at the home screen here, the landing page at govshop.com. And, you know, we designed it to be a modern look and feel. You know, user experience was important, did a lot of testing. And what we've come up with is the single place to search, find, and connect with suppliers in the public sector market. There are three basic ways to search in GovShop. You can browse by commodity codes like product service code, NAICS code, and even our own PSF market segmentations. You can browse by contract vehicles here. So if you're interested in finding companies that have a GWAC like GSA schedules or other IDIQs, GWACs, I guess more like SOUP, NASA SOUP, et cetera, OASIS, you can search there. You can search by the GSA schedules. If you're a state and local buyer, you can search cooperative contracts and even other transaction authorities, which we have coming online soon. And we're bringing those up every day. You can also browse and filter all suppliers. So if you wanted to just jump right in and start using a keyword search and seeing what kind of suppliers are on GovShop, you could do that. Before I go too much further, we had a question about opportunities. And so I wanted to show you, this is a relatively new feature on GovShop. We're really excited about it. What it allows you to do is search innovation and emerging tech opportunities, as well as challenges across government. I talked earlier about the Acquisition Innovation Essentials webinar that we're hosting next week. These are the opportunities that we're going to be talking about. These are not your traditional C contract type solicitations. These are really opportunities to get innovation funding. If you're doing, and I assume you're at this webinar for emerging technology, you are doing things that are pushing boundaries, and that, you know, in some cases, some governments might not even know they need yet. So this is going to be a really attractive page for you. And again, you can navigate to the opportunities page right from the search from suppliers to search opportunities. I'm seeing our questions and answers flying over here. So if there's questions about that, I can get back to that. But let me quickly show you the ways that you can use GovShop. So I usually start most of my queries here in the search bar, and let's just look for emerging technologies. So as you can see, as I'm typing in my query, the results are organized by supplier profiles that have emerging technology in either their profile name or in a keyword. The commodities codes, so you can see there's some NAICS codes that map to emerging technologies, as well as our PSF markets. And then contract vehicles, where you might be able to find emerging technology. Let's take a quick look at the PSF market page for emerging technologies. And what I really like about this page is that if you're doing, you know, strategic market research, you're a buyer out there, you want to know what's down, you know, what's coming, what's emerging. You can learn about emerging technologies right from this landing page. So, you know, you can go to the opportunity. Yes.
Hey, sorry to interrupt. Could you just expand the screen size a little bit? I think people will be able to read it a little bit better. There you go.
How's that?
That's great.
Great. So yes, as I was saying, so you can kind of peruse this page. You can see the mappings that we have in our PSF markets. So we break down the emerging technology space into these categories, and that's always dynamic. We're always looking for feedback there. You can come down and see some of the suppliers. You know, there's I think that's 700,000 plus suppliers that are mapped to the emerging technology. So I'll show you a little bit more how you can browse and filter on that. But let's take a look at the augmented virtual augmented reality marketplace. So this is AR/VR extended reality solutions, and this is another one of our commodity landing pages. So we have some information about the extended reality space. Some of the search terms that you might be using when you're conducting market research would be included here, and that's always helpful to know. And again, our commodity code. So this is how we segment and cluster the AR/VR extended reality market, which is kind of useful, especially if you're just trying to, like I said, doing strategic market research, trying to understand what's in this market. We have some great insights and blogs that you can read to get smart. And yeah, so that's kind of how you can get to our main market landing pages. But if we're doing market research and we're looking for suppliers specifically, maybe we want to put an RFI out or a sources sought, and we're trying to find some suppliers that we think definitely need to be on that distribution list, we can actually browse and filter all of these companies. So you see right now we have like 4,000 plus suppliers. That's a little unwieldy. So I click on the browse and filter button, and it's going to take me to this page. This is where you're going to do most of your hardcore market research. And I want to show you these filters because they're going to make things a lot easier for you. So again, let's say because we're interested in emerging technology firms, we're going to select that filter. And that's going to show us we've still got 1,000 plus suppliers, but at least now we know those are emerging tech non-traditional firms. Well, if you have an active procurement, you might be only interested in firms that are registered with government, that have a SAM.gov registration. So when I add that filter, I've suddenly gone from 1,000 plus suppliers to 43 suppliers. So I can work with that a little bit. Let's say, though, that I still want to get a little bit deeper and I'm really interested in companies that have done innovation work for the government. So I can further down select using this filter for SBIR awards, which is really nice. If one of these companies has done SBIR awards, I have a high degree of confidence that they, A, know the government market, and B, have technology that or solutions that are commercially ready and viable. So we've gone down from 4,000 plus supplier profiles to 7 supplier profiles, all registered with the government in a matter of minutes. So we can start looking into these companies. And like I mentioned at the start, suppliers are using GovShop profiles as really like a website. Quite frankly, it's got all the information that government buyers care about: the DUNS number, revenue totals, cage codes, the amount of time in the public sector. All of this information, we specifically built these profiles because we know what government customers are doing when they do market research, and we continue to validate that. Obviously, we have the opportunity for suppliers to link to their main website, so they can definitely do that. And so here we have VCOM 3D. We can learn a little bit about what they do. We can see what their expertise are. Contact information is right there. Their size and minority status. Look, this is a woman-owned small business. That's really great. A woman-owned small business that meets all of these conditions. We definitely want to keep an eye on them. And then our product and service areas. So this is interesting. We can actually look at what capabilities this company automatically provides. So all of these things are part of a capability statement or a CAPE statement that you might see or might have been mailed if you're in the government. You probably have a few of these. Let's look at the past experience, because that's something we're always interested in as government procurement professionals. What's the past experience? What have these companies actually done for the government? And you can see this company has a CBER Phase 2 with the Department of Education for mobile communications application, or an app, I guess, smartphone app for people who are deaf. And that's amazing. So you can learn a little bit more about what they do. If they had existing contracts with the government, they would show up here. So this company does not have any GSA schedules or IDIQs, but you would see that they did there. You could pull down any relevant information, downloadable content, which is available to suppliers as well. If they wanted to put case studies there, they could. Let me show you a few more things. And one of the things I did want to show you is our market summary report. And I'm going to have to back out. Well, let me come back to the market summary report real quick. And what I want to show you is how we can actually, so one thing I know about market research, having done it for the government, is that it's not something I can necessarily complete in one sitting. I might be doing this and then get distracted or get called to a meeting, and I want to make sure I save these suppliers. So GovShop has this really helpful list feature. So I can select all these companies, and I want to add them to a list, but I want to add them to my AR/VR list. So I've created this already. So this is a list of AR/VR suppliers, and I'm going to add all of them to my AR/VR list. So I've done that, and now I've got 7 AR/VR suppliers that are saved. I can come back to GovShop anytime and have these 7 companies. Maybe I am interested in documenting this market research. We make that easy too. There's an export feature. I can export these 7 supplier profiles into a PDF, and it's just a really nice readout of these companies and the important information that we might want to know. And I can just slide this right into my contract file, and I've got a nice little head start on my government market research. I can even share them by email. So this is going to pull up an email browser and let me send that out to, maybe it's my boss or my OSDBU, my small business rep. So those are some really neat features that'll help you do market research better and faster. I did mention the market summary report, so I just want to hop back over here. This is our emerging technologies landing page. And if I just want to see sort of a breakdown of the entire market segment in GovShop, 700,000 suppliers, what are the demographics about this particular market? So I can create a market summary report. I've already done it, but this is where you would enter your title and description, and then it's going to export like this. Let me make this a little bit bigger. So you can see this is our market research for summary report for AR/VR market. It's a market survey of suppliers that have capabilities that are matching these types of solutions. It's got, as you can see, 4,549 suppliers in here, 305 of which are registered in SAM. 58 have SBIR awards. None of them are on the excluded parties list, so that's good. And then I can get some demographic breakdown. Small businesses, other than small businesses, some that aren't even mapped as a socioeconomic category. I can see what kind of companies these are, these manufacturers, resellers, SMEs, do they provide services? And then if I do want to know, and I know this is always top of mind for government procurement professionals if they're doing market research, a big part of it is, are there enough socioeconomic businesses in this category for me to do a set aside? Here we would have a reasonable degree of confidence that a woman-owned small business set aside would yield a high degree of competition in the resulting solicitation. SDVOSBs likely would as well, with 17 SDVOSB suppliers, 9 small disadvantaged businesses, and 5 8As, following 3 hub zone companies. So again, really useful summary report. And I want to ask Raj, I want to make sure I didn't leave anything out of this demo. Anything I need to add, Raj?
Yeah, if you go back to the report for a second again, Frank, I just want to highlight.
Sure.
So this is obviously at a high level. You might not be able to make some decisions like set-asides and stuff because you'd probably want to get deeper into the requirements with some more keywords, et cetera. But the feature that Frank showed, the save list, you can actually do this report. Let's say you've gotten your report tighter, meaning you've gone through a deeper analysis of the requirements and saved, created a list. Then you can do the same thing. Seems like something may not be working right there, Frank, but we can look at that. But you can generate a summary report from there too. Let's say you saved 100 suppliers based on your requirements, and you can then see, what the breakdown looks like across the board. So yeah, that's one thing. I think the second thing I was just going to point out was related to opportunities. Since we've had a huge amount of interest on that, just wanted to point out that on opportunities, we'll soon be adding the ability to add opportunities yourself, as well as some search functionality, et cetera. So you'll see more of that coming on live soon. And we've seen some huge amount of interest in that. Those are a couple of the things, Frank. I'm not sure if anybody else has any other things to add there.
Yeah, and this is Ben. I think the key piece for the government buyer side is, this, 10 minutes in GovShop is checking a lot of boxes on that contract specialist checklist, right? You're achieving that market research piece, getting an idea of the segment that you're looking at. You're verifying that those vendors aren't on the excluded parties list. You're making early decisions on whether you're going to target a set aside or whether further market research needs to be done. And this is allowing you to really identify a pool of companies that then you can look at and determine whether you're going to target some existing contracting instruments. Maybe they have SIBR and you're looking for a SIBR phase 3. Maybe there's 8As. What your contracting strategy is already being formed, and you've only spent a few minutes clicking some boxes on GovShop. Not to mention the piece that Raj just mentioned, which was maybe I want to take it to the next level and go ahead and post my RFI or sources sought on the opportunities page to start gathering some real data with the vendors I've selected. So from someone who's worked in the government space and understanding the variety of systems that you go into check this data and the amount of time it takes to do that passive market research where you post an RFI on SAM and you wait and see what comes back. This is a tool that you can absolutely use, free for government, free for industry, to just layer on top of that activity and actually bring a whole new world of vendors to your customer.
Absolutely. And if you're a company out there and you're thinking, how do I get onto GovShop? It's really easy. First, check to see if your company already has a profile. They might. We do pull and pull a lot of data from publicly available sources. So there's a chance that you already have a profile, and you could claim it. I think you have to be logged out for you to be able to see claim. Yeah. So if I was just coming here without a login and this was my company, I could claim this profile. And then we put you through a clearance process. We vet you. We want to make sure that you'll are earnestly working for the company. And so that's how you would do it. And then just updating the supplier profile is quite easy, and something that you all should do if you're running a business out there. GovShop has incredible domain authority, and it's very clear when people are doing market research on Google that they can actually find GovShop profiles. And in some cases, just because we have so many pages indexed by Google, we're able to outrank companies' own websites. It is difficult to get your own website ranking on the first page of Google. And honestly, if you're a small business and you're developing awesome product and you're trying to take it to market, you probably don't have a lot of time to do that. So definitely take 30 minutes, take an hour, make your GovShop profile amazing. We have a team of customer care representatives that can help you and troubleshoot anything that you're struggling with. And we're happy to provide those coaching calls for free. You can get to that right from the chat here. So we're always ready to help you. And I hope you'll consider creating your GovShop profile this afternoon. So I'm going to kick it back over to Raj. That's really all I have for the demo now. I think our questions are mostly answered, but if anybody does have any other questions, hit us up in the chat or the Q&A. Thanks, Raj. Back to you.
Great. Thank you, Frank. I think I'm just seeing if there are any other questions here that were on the chat. I think we've answered a number of them. As we mentioned, we'll continue the functionalities continuing to increase, as well as we're really focused on adding more and more data. I just want to talk about how you can help participate in this free ecosystem. So we really worked hard to make sure this is free to government and suppliers. And that's really important part of our mission of building really an open innovation ecosystem to achieve open government markets. So here's just some ideas, and we'd love to hear from you and reach out to us, and a number of people are on a daily basis, so we're excited about that. From a government standpoint, this really applies to everyone. Provide feedback. Work with us on specific use cases. We're working on a lot of them right now. So if you have a specific use case you think might be well served by working with GovShop and our team, let us know. You can start to post opportunities. Right now, you can't yourself, but send them to us and we'll take care of that. And then contracts data. More and more agencies are asking us to populate contracts data. And then, we see this as a change process, right? We're trying to change the way market research is done. It's such an important task within the procurement process, whether it's program officers, users doing it, or it's the procurement community, the contracting officers, contract specialists, et cetera. So, it does take leadership, and it does take a lot of, let's say, those first movers and early adopters. But we are seeing that, and so we're really excited about that, because we think this is not just a top-down change. This is really all about a bottoms-up approach to change, and really kind of arming people with tools and information that anyone can use. So we're really excited about that. From a supplier standpoint, I think Frank already mentioned, claim your profile. Provide us feedback on, what are the barriers you face. We'll be rolling out a survey soon on barriers to working with government. But tell us, reach out to us anytime. That's something that really helps us think about, whether it's through GovShop or some of our services, or really just in working with government in general. What can we do to help kind of lower those barriers? And we'll be rolling out a beta supplier subscription program as well. So we'll tell you more about that in the coming days. And then if you're an ecosystem participant, you could be a tech scout, or you could be an OTA, a venture capital firm. We're working with all of those. Again, you can build a profile and then call us up, call Ben, call Ash, call Frank, any of us. And we'd love to hear how we can work with you as partners. Again, you can just work independently on GovShop and our platform, or you can work in concert with us. Anything else? I know, Ben, you've been talking about just the open kind of philosophy of the system here. Anything you want to add there?
Yeah, I mean, what's unique about GovShop is the mission, which is we create that open, free platform for government and industry to meet. And then that's the opportunity to start talking about those barriers that we want to break down. From the government perspective and all my time on the contracting side, it was difficult to find the companies with the technology and be able to access them. From the vendor side, it's unbelievable because you think I'm right here. I have the technology, but I don't know how to get to you. So really GovShop is providing that opportunity for the two to meet. And we're just excited to be the ones to facilitate that. So I just want to thank everybody who came in on the call today. I can tell you, I love it for a change. I don't know how many webinars everyone's always been on where you get on there and no questions are asked, and then people leave and they're like, oh, I wish I would ask a question. And this group did not mess around. They were asking questions from the get. And that's the best way to do it. Don't stop asking questions yet. Hit us back with your follow-up questions tonight, tomorrow, or whenever you have them.
Great. And I think, Frank, that's a wrap then. I'm not sure if there's any other questions that came in, but I think we're done. It's always good to end a meeting early.
You never get in trouble for ending a meeting early.
Yes.
Well, thank you, Raj. Thank you, Ben. And thank you to our audience. We appreciate your time today. And we look forward to seeing you on GovShop and in a future event. Have a great afternoon, and we'll see you next time.